This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, and welcome to it, my friends. It is Thursday. All right, welcome to it, my friends. It's Thursday here on the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you on board. $310 million, the winning Powerball ticket sold in Three Rivers, Michigan. $310 million. So if you got some friends and so forth down in that part of the state, well, you might want to be getting on the phone saying, hey, what are we doing? The official jackpot being raised to an official $310,500,000. You know, it's $500,000 among friends. So there you have it. I don't think that's too far from Tim Walberg's district, actually, and maybe it's in it. Congressman Tim Walberg joining us on the phone. Congressman, welcome to the program.
Good to be with you, and I didn't hear. Did you say Three Rivers?
I did.
Which just outside of my district.
Well, you might want to solicit a donor over there nonetheless. $310 million in the Powerball jackpot. I'm just saying, time to hold a fundraiser in Three Rivers.
I'll talk with Fred Upton and see if we can share it.
Yeah, there you go. Fred won't mind. He's an amiable fella. All right, so there's a little bit of fun to start the conversation, but after that, a lot of very serious things going on. Obviously, the Russians now flying combat military missions in Syria at the same time that Americans are flying combat missions, and others, the Turks. A whole host of people in there doing work, I suppose. The Jordanians were doing some work in some different places at different times. I mean, this is just a recipe for disaster. There's no coordinated effort here. The Russians are bombing the groups that are backed by the Americans, the rebels, and then we're bombing the folks from ISIL. This is chaos, and nothing good can come from this, from what I can tell.
Well, nothing good can come, but significant danger and concern for our American way of life can come from this. And again, it's an example, I think you and I have talked about it numerous times, when you have a lack of leadership and unwillingness to demonstrate that America still is a kind but great nation, powerful and the leader of the world. If we have leadership that isn't willing to step up to the plate as expected by the rest of the world, expected, not thought about, but expected by the rest of the world. This is the type of thing that develops when we have people now like Putin, who has reinserted himself a couple of years ago into Syria because our line in the sand that the president drew washed away. He inserted himself, became a player on the world stage, and now, saying what he would do, he moves into Syria, and now they have the audacity to tell us, stay out of the way, we're the ones controlling the airspace, don't fly over. How dare
Well, here's the thing.
Then Raul Castro tells us that the continued relations will not be completed until we lift certain things, including moving Guantanamo, our naval base, out of Cuba. This will escalate more and more until America steps up to the plate again, shows its strength, and relies upon the character of this nation of what has made us so strong in the first place.
I predicted months ago in writing that Barack Obama would offer Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, to Castro as part of their wedding gift. And I stand by that. I think that this president, even though I don't believe he has the constitutional right to do so, will make an executive order before he leaves office to give Guantanamo Bay back to Cuba. And once he does that, it puts those that follow him in a very difficult position, because how do you say, well, no, he didn't have the authority to do that? But I foresee that as a possibility. Now, back to the Russians. Earlier today on the program, Todd Wood was here from the Washington Times, coming to us. He's in Ukraine today, talking about what's happening there. He said Ukraine is over. The fight there is over. The Russians are pulling out because the Russians don't have the ability to fight on two fronts. So the Russians are pulling out there, and they're taking all the resources they had in Ukraine and sending them to Syria, where they intend to have air bases, where they intend to have naval bases, where they intend to be the power broker in the Middle East. And here we are looking at Hillary Clinton and her reset button. This president saying that, he'll work with the Russians to usher out Assad. He said that in 2012, who mocked Mitt Romney in 2012 for pointing out that Russia was our biggest geopolitical foe on the planet. And then yesterday, here's John Kerry and his Russian counterpart saying, we've been together, we have agreed to talk. And I say, and so what? They've accomplished nothing. We look like weaklings. If you want to know what a collapsing foreign policy looks like, turn on your TV set, I suppose.
What's this new term? Deconflicting? I think it was a term that Kerry used.
Whatever that means, yeah.
What in the world does that mean? Coming
gobbledygook is what my mother would call that. Gobbledygook in her speak as a school teacher. If she had some student give her some answer like that on a test, she would fail them and go, I don't grade gobbledygook.
Yeah, Russia.
And it's what's coming out of Washington.
When Kerry met with the Russian yesterday, they should have been told in no uncertain terms that we will fly wherever we want to fly. Don't you dare even consider doing anything contrary to that. We control the airspace, not you. It is a scary situation that's developing here, and I think the only positive thing is that Israel is still on guard, and should it get to a point that Israel and some of the surrounding neighbors of Syria in that region see this as escalating to a point that would be dangerous for them, I think there'll be some action taken on their part.
Well, okay, on the other side of this, I heard Governor John Kasich yesterday, the only guy that I've heard come out and say, listen, we should be telling the Russians right now that they're not going to play this game, that there will be serious consequences, and address it straight up. And it almost sounded like Kasich was saying, if the Russians, cross this line, we have to confront them directly. And I'm not sure, is he advocating, a military conflict with the Russians? I don't think we want to get into that mess. Certainly not.
No, and I don't think the Russians want to get into it either. I think they understand that our military might is still capable of stopping them aggressively and in short fashion. But the more time they have to flex the muscles, the more problems they put in that region, the more they make the decision of who's going to lead that region, the more difficult it is for us and our allies to feel a sense of security in moving forward.
All right, so what do you think? I mean, in large part, the American Congress has, I suppose, they could step up and say something about this, but this president doesn't take you guys seriously. You frankly, Congressman Walberg, you are irrelevant to this president. It's not a swipe that I'm making.
No, I agree with you.
I agree with you. He has deemed you irrelevant.
The Constitution is irrelevant. We are irrelevant. And the actions that we put on that are wending their ways through the courts, for instance, are a problem to him. But it just says to him, well, we'll leave that problem for a while and we'll go to another area we want to accomplish. And it's just
now hold those thoughts right there.
Cuts. It's Saul Alinsky in action, using crisis after crisis, and I guess charting the course by crisis.
Hold your thought, Congressman. We'll be right back on the Steve Gruber Show.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
Welcome back to the program on this Thursday. It's the Steve Gruber Show. By the way, bow season, archery season for white-tailed deer opened today across the state of Michigan, so keep that in mind. Folks moving in and out of the woods in camouflage, nothing to concern yourself with, just guys out there trying to see if they can connect with a white-tailed deer, and that's true all over the state today. For some folks, myself included, here in southern Michigan, this hunting season comes with the added knowledge that we have chronic wasting disease in the herd, at least to some extent. In talking to Chad Stewart at the DNR yesterday, I learned that they have still only found 3 deer that were infected with chronic wasting disease, all related, and all right there in Meridian Township near Hazlet, just outside of Lansing. Latest numbers are they've tested something on the order of about 1,000 deer total now. 3 have tested positive, so he's not quite sure what to make of it. He said at this point it's going to be hunters that make the difference so that they get enough deer to test going forward. So we'll keep an eye on that as time warrants. Congressman, apparently you're not going bow hunting today.
Not going bow hunting, but I'm looking forward to the gun season. And
well, there you go. I'll go bow hunting at some point. It's going to have to be a little cooler. Nice weather this morning for it, though, if you partake in such things. And let's be honest, before we go back to the heavy lifting of politics and so forth, for any of your friends in Congress that haven't been to Michigan, September and October in Michigan, there is no better place on the planet than when the leaves are changing and the pumpkins are turned orange and you've got this, the cider mills are pressing it out and you've got the deer running around. I mean, Michigan is a spectacular place in the fall.
A colleague of mine from Oklahoma and I were talking just about that this morning in the gym, and he was asking me what it's like there in Michigan right now. I said, this is our perfect season. This is when we have temperatures in the mid to high 60s, low 70s at times, blue skies, no humidity, and color all around us. I said, it's pure Michigan. He says, I figured you'd say that because I see that on the commercials.
He's in Oklahoma. Well, that's good to know. I don't mind when taxpayer dollars go to a good initiative, and if we're advertising to the good folks in Oklahoma and people all around the country, you know what? I tip my hat to that because promoting tourism. Because once people would come, if somebody comes here for a color tour now and they're in your district or they're around Traverse City or they're in the UP or wherever they may be, come on, hard to beat.
Hard to beat. Hard to beat any time.
So, all right. So. I saw a proposal come out from our 2 Democratic senators here just a handful of days ago from Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters, suggesting, and not suggesting, the legislation, if passed, if I'm reading this correctly, would ban forever all shipping of oil on the Great Lakes. And I appreciate the fact that we don't want an oil spill on the Great Lakes, but it would ban all shipping of oil on the Great Lakes. And to me, I think that would be of great detriment to the economy of Michigan. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree. We have a resource there that is unprecedented in the world. There are some great lakes around the world, like Lake Victoria, for instance, but nothing as clean and as pristine and as useful as the Great Lakes. The ability for us to ship heavy equipment, heavy cargo, and cargo like oil, and do it in an appropriate fashion, a safe fashion, is something that's without question. To just give in to radical environmental interests is not the way to go. So I hope that that common sense will prevail and say, yeah, let's protect those Great Lakes. Let's make sure the freighters that carry these cargoes are appropriately licensed and evaluated. But nonetheless, let's use the resources so that the economy, jobs, and opportunity, as well as shipping and transportation, can carry on well.
I mean, well, what are we to make of this? It seems that every day here in Michigan, for example, we're going to have 9 coal-fired power plants shut down, the majority of them on the west side of the state here by April of 2016, next year. 1.5 gigawatts represented there. It's pretty clear now from all the reports that are coming out that rolling blackouts by next summer could be commonplace in Michigan. It seems to me that in pursuit of some utopia of green energy and flowers and grass or something, that and you've been around Michigan. Michigan's a beautiful, clean, green, wonderful place. Some misguided effort is going to put us back, 100 years into the darkness, and the bills are going to go up. But I do think that people sitting in the dark, with their $500 electric bill might find to be something that gets everybody's attention, but it just seems we're going too far, too often.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we have resources. We ought to be using those resources. I'm not sure what we're saving them for at the extent we're talking about saving them. We ought to be using them to develop more technology, more opportunity in the future, and different ways of powering and being more efficient and ecologically safe in the process. But let's use them for the common good right now. And when you have coal and oil, natural gas, when you have water, clean energy opportunities, for us to be always talking about moving backwards and depleting our ability to use the resources we have, it just doesn't make sense, especially when you stand in Michigan, in the Irish Hills where I live, or up where both you and I were a couple weeks ago up on Mackinac Island. We're not talking about a dirty environment anymore. The Great Lakes, Lake Erie is part of my district. It's of huge importance to us for the fishing industry, the tourism industry, the shipping industry, but also the power industry. And we know how to use it. We can continue to use the resources, and we can bless the citizens of our great state and this great country by using common sense and understanding that they're there for a purpose. You mentioned the hunting.
I agree with that. I'm trying to figure out when America became afraid of its own shadow. Anyhow, Congressman Tim Walberg, I have to run. We'll talk about that next time around. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Good to be with you, and great success in your bow hunting.
Thank you, sir. Have a great weekend. Congressman Tim Walberg here on a Thursday on the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be right back.
Michigan, born and raised with Midwestern values and Michigan common sense.
White man came across the sea. He brought us pain and misery. He killed us.
It's Thursday on the Steve Gruber Show. The hotline, the common sense hotline, 888-900-9966. Just yesterday, a federal judge told President Barack Obama and the Obama administration, you cannot regulate fracking on federal lands. A federal district judge who, by the way, was assigned to the bench by an Obama appointee, has sided with the petroleum industry and granted an injunction against enforcing the Obama administration regulations for hydraulic fracturing, or fracking as it is commonly known on federal lands. At this point, the court does not believe Congress has granted or delegated to the Bureau of Land Management authority to regulate fracking, so said Judge Scott Skavdal. Like I said, an Obama appointee. He put that in his preliminary injunction against the Department of the Interior, and good for him. If Congress can't defend themselves, maybe the court can. Speaking of fracking and its impact, a new study from the University of Michigan's Graham Sustainability Institute is now being released. Researchers of Michigan oil and gas fracking urge outreach. One of those is John Callewaert from the University of Michigan's Graham Sustainability Institute. John, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for the opportunity to talk with you.
Well, this is I know this is not quite on point, but this ruling by the federal judge is a big deal when it comes to fracking. And fracking, and I'm not quite sure why this is, seems to create a lot of emotional reaction from people. I mean, it's been done in Michigan since the 1940s. From what I can tell, we're not poisoning school kids. We're not houses are not collapsing into sinkholes, and I don't ever remember an earthquake in Michigan. So from what I can tell, fracking in Michigan has been done well, been done safely, and as we get more technology, it's probably done at an even higher level today than ever before. Am I wrong?
I'd say one thing I'd like to add to that is what our report focused on was a different scale of activity that we haven't seen that much of in Michigan. So ours is more of a look kind of into the future of what might be more common in terms of activity in Michigan. What you described as fracking that's taken place in Michigan back into the 40s is true. There's been over 12,000 oil and gas wells fracked in Michigan. Those are small-scale wells, shallow, by industry standards, 1,000 to 2,000 feet, small, using volumes of fluid for the fracturing completion, approximately 50,000 gallons based on what DEQ has told me and shared with me. What our report focused on are the high-volume hydraulic fracturing wells. These are wells that go down maybe 10,000 feet or more, so rather than the 1,000 to 2,000 feet, 10,000 feet or more, then go out horizontally maybe another mile or two, and can use anywhere from 100,000 gallons of fluid, which is the minimum threshold that the state has. And we've seen some completions in the Kalkaska area using up to 20 million gallons. So different scale, and so that's why we did our report focused just on that high volume category.
Okay, so let me stop you there. Let me jump in.
Thing in Michigan in terms of fracking going back 60 years, because there's a lot of good history.
But let me
there,
jump in right there, John.
Forward, yeah.
Yeah, let me jump in right there, because here's the thing. We have, a dozen of those wells in Michigan. And when you go 10,000 feet deep, pretty much the whole argument about affecting groundwater for opponents of fracking goes out the window. The fact of the matter is, we're not pulling groundwater for more than about 300 feet.
Same in terms of the drilling. You're still penetrating through groundwater layers to get deeper. The issue
and you do that with a water well.
That deep percolating up is something that I think is pretty rare. We've discussed that in our previous reports. That the likelihood of that's not the issue. I think what most people are focused on are surface spills. And I think the issue with the larger scale activity is when you've got that much more fluid stored on site, or the chemicals that are being used, there's just that much more opportunity for accidents. Now, Michigan, I should say, has got some great regulations in terms of controlling the fluid that comes back, in terms of always being in steel tanks and no kind of above ground storage ponds for that fracturing fluid, the wastewater, which is not the case in other states. But I think
is fracking safe?
Volume activity, that the volume of materials that are used is what raises questions for folks.
Let me ask you this. Let me just make it black and white. Is fracking safe?
So right there, I don't think it's possible to answer that question. So because
let me ask you. Let me change the question then. Hold on.
Fracking.
Then let me ask the question. Have we ever had an incident in Michigan? Hold on.
And there's all different types of scales of activity. In some places, no, it is not safe. When there's been records of spills and accidents and problems, that has not been the case in Michigan. And ours is a report that looks, if we're going to see more of this large volume activity, what are some things that we would want to consider? We're not making recommendations to the state that they need specifically to do anything, but they've acknowledged that they've made some changes based on their work with us in the area of water quality monitoring, disclosing the type of chemicals that are used. So I don't think it's possible to answer that question, is it safe or not? Because you have to be...
so you've answered my question part. We've never had an issue in Michigan. Zero. None. Right? That's number one. Number two, hold on. Hold on, John.
I can't.
Hold on. Let me get to the question
here. On. Because
let me get to the question.
There have been cases where there's been issues with fluids. There have been cases where there's been questions that have been raised. We certainly haven't seen the problems that have existed in other states. We certainly don't have
where are these? Hold on,
John. In Michigan from the disposal. So yes, it's important to say we have not seen the problems in other states, but I don't think you can just kind of make a blanket statement to say there's never been any problem and there never will be any problem.
I didn't say that. I'm asking if it's safe. Now, what are these problems in other states that you are focused on? Have there been massive contamination of groundwater? Have there been other issues? I'm citing the complaints made by the anti-fracking communities. And if so, where?
Where?
Specifically, where?
You want to know the specific county or whatever? I don't have that information for me because we didn't look at that much at other states. But yes, there have been known problems in Pennsylvania in terms of the capacity of the state to manage the wastewater. They're also kind of shipping that wastewater to Ohio for disposal. And then there's been cases of seismic activity in Ohio related to the disposal of the wastewater fluid. So there's problems with seismic activity in Oklahoma. But again, those are not the issues that we focused on for Michigan because those are not Michigan issues. What we focused on was additional opportunities for public participation, some additional options around water decision-making, both for the water that's used and how the water is disposed of, and then a whole set of options regarding chemical use in terms of what's known about what we use and how that's handled and what monitoring is put in place during the activity.
As a result of doing this study, we're on the line with John Callewaert from the University of Michigan's Graham Sustainability Institute. We don't have a lot of time here, John.
Mm-hmm.
But from your work on this study, would you consider yourself a proponent or an opponent? Would you support or not support fracking from your point of view as a general rule?
That's not the purpose of what we did, and that's not a question that it's appropriate for me to answer.
Question.
What we did with this study is kind of look systematically at what's being done in the state, what the issues are, looked at what regulations are in other states, and offered a set of options for decision makers, mainly the state, because they are one of the most important decision makers on this topic. And I think that gets back to what you were talking about with BLM and kind of federal operations. It's, most of the activity around this, around fracking, is based on state regulations.
Getting your day started with news from around the state and around the world. Common Sense Radio. This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Traveling in a freighter combi.
I had to ask Ivy, when we put this interview together with Jeff Holyfield, Rob Burkhardt, our associate producer, had put on the schedule here a few days ago. How fortuitous for us, Jeff Holyfield, the Michigan Lottery spokesman, how fortuitous considering that just last night in Three Rivers, Michigan, a $310 million winning ticket was sold, I am told. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Steve. And, you're almost as lucky as the person who bought that winning ticket.
Almost, but I'm thinking I must have family in Three Rivers. I must have friends, or I should be making friends in Three Rivers. Shaking hands, kissing babies, $310 million. That's a lot of cheese, Jeff.
Yeah, that's a lot of cheese. And if you think about it, if you were to spend $1,000 an hour around the clock, it would take you something on the order of 38 years to go through $310 million. And
so our politicians could run that out in a year or so. Anyhow, that's for a different day. But this is a big prize. I mean, how many prizes over $300 million or anywhere in that neighborhood has Michigan had over time?
Actually, this would be number two because
all time.
Back in 2012, Donald Lawson from Lapeer won $337 million playing the Powerball. So
I'm still waiting for him to call, by the way. He has not called me, and I just want to make a note of that.
Have you sent him the cards and all of that?
Can you imagine? You'd probably have all sorts of new friends if you wanted, and relatives you'd never even heard of.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a possibility.
Absolutely. So that's, this is exciting stuff, and somebody or there's a group of people, who knows, it could be an office pool or whatever, having a great morning here in Michigan.
Absolutely. Now, okay, so the reason we first scheduled you, because there are going to be some changes in the Powerball a little bit, which could make it possible, if not entirely likely, that we will see a potential prize in the future of $1 billion. That's with a B, boys and girls. That's like Jeff Zuckerman rich. I mean, Jeff Bezos rich. You could become a billionaire overnight. Can you imagine?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Steve. There have been statisticians who have worked the numbers, and what is happening with the Powerball is in the Matrix is they're lowering the overall odds of winning, so that's good. But they're raising the odds of winning the jackpot, and so now if there are white balls from 1 to 59, and the red Powerball is 1 to 35. And starting October 4th, which is Sunday, the game matrix will be there are 69 white balls, and the number of Powerballs will be reduced to 26. So that's going to increase the odds, and again, Powerball tickets are sold in 44 states, and Puerto Rico, the District of Columbia, and the Virgin Islands. So that's with all those jurisdictions and with all the combinations of numbers, theoretically, it is possible for us to have $1 billion jackpot.
So $1 billion jackpot. Okay. I don't know how much time you think about this. We're on line with Jeff Holyfield from the Michigan Lottery. What's your walkaway cash? Like $500 million, $600 million? What would be the cash payout on such a thing?
Well, let's see. You'd basically walk away. We have to say it was one here in the state of Michigan, which if that happens, we sincerely hope it is, and it would we would withhold 25% for the federal income tax and 4.25% for the state income tax. Now that wouldn't necessarily satisfy the tax liability for that person. But on $1 billion, you'd have choices of as far as are you going to take it as a lump sum or an annuity? And
no, you take that as a lump sum. I mean, that's what I'm asking you. I mean, me personally, I'm taking it all. I'm taking it all, Jeff. I'm getting my cheese wagon and I'm filling it.
So if you took it as a lump sum, you'd probably be talking about something in the order of $720 or $730 million, and then taxes off that. So you're pretty darn close, Steve. Yeah, you'd probably walk away with a check for $500 million.
I won't even sleep tonight. I'm going to be dreaming about the $1 billion prize.
The daydreams and the wishes running wild in your head?
Oh, sure. I mean, I was out on the Great Lakes this summer. I saw a couple of boats. I know there'd be something I'd like to take care of. But in all honesty, the things I would take care of would be college education for family, and then friends of friends. You take care of a lot of people going to college. You educate a whole group of people. That's one of the things I would do. Of course, I'd have a really nice boat. I can't lie to you about that. A really nice boat. And then some
you
other
wouldn't want to limit
but,
yourself to one, Steve.
Well, probably not. If you had two 70-foot yachts, you could have like yacht races on Lake Michigan, you and your buddies. See?
Yeah, you'd probably want to keep one in at a marina in Detroit, the Detroit area, and then have one,
on the west side,
Traverse City on Lake Michigan or something like that.
Absolutely. Now you're going to Jeff Holyfield here with the Michigan Lottery. So, okay, when do these rules, the new rules, take effect?
The new rules take effect on Sunday.
So this guy in Michigan got in just in time of this woman. So I say the ticket that they sold it in last night, they got in just under the wire, so they're good, they're safe.
Yeah, we
the new rules take effect this
one more
weekend.
Drawing, which will be Saturday night, and that under the current matrix, and then the matrix changes, the rules, if you will, change on Sunday morning. So the tickets sold from Sunday going forward will be under the new rules, and really, Steve, these changes reflect what players have told us they want, and they want.
And there you have. All right, so. In Michigan, are you required to
huge stacks of cash?
Well, and so do I. Are you required in Michigan to tell the world who you are, or can you still do it anonymously?
For Powerball and Mega Millions, you are required. Also, Lucky for Life to tell the world
make
who
a public
you are.
appearance.
But the state-only games, if you win $10,000 or more, you can choose to remain anonymous.
And remember, you can't win if you don't buy a ticket. Jeff Holyfield, what a pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
You're welcome, Steve, anytime.
There you have it. Buy a ticket. Be somebody. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Thursday. All right, it's 55 after the hour. Like I said, there's headlines every day, and I do my level best to get to all of them, but I don't always make it. Any idea what you're getting for the holidays, for Christmas? Well, according to the FAA, about 1 million of us will be getting drones under the tree. Whether that's a high-end quadcopter or a low-end $20 knockoff from Walmart, regardless, the FAA is very, very concerned about what happens when 1 million new aircraft, drones, enter the airspace. As reported by Aviation Week, the FAA's Rich Swayze put it this way while speaking at the Airlines for America Commercial Aviation Industry Summit. A lot of people who don't have a pilot background are operating these things in the airspace. Yeah, that's right. That's right. UAVs are going to be all over the place. There'll be new rules coming, trust me. And if they can figure out how to tax these things, they'll figure out how to do that and license you and try to get into your wallet. That's going to happen. That I can assure you. So keep an eye on that. 1 million drones, though. 1 million of those things flying around. Good thing I've got shotguns. What? What'd I say? I think it's illegal to shoot drones. So don't get caught. Sorry. Why do you look at me like that? Retailers are appealing to Capitol Hill ahead of a Thursday deadline. That's today's deadline, requiring them to install machines that accept a more secure microchip-embedded credit card. If you have cards that swipe still, you are outdated. You are out. You moving in for something to say here? You got something to say about shooting drones? What do you got, Ivy?
You know I'm more likely to hit them than you are.
Wow. She comes in and she says one thing all day and pounds me right into the ground. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate that for the support. I mean, that's beautiful. Wow. Anyhow, when you're out buying me a drone, Ivy, you can use your new embedded microchip unless your card doesn't take it. I've got to go lick my wounds now. We'll be back tomorrow. Free for all Friday tomorrow. Keep that phone line hot. 888-900-9966. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Ouch.